All right, all right, all right. Here we are getting started. I see a couple folks popping in. Thanks for joining us here on a lovely sunny virtual day. Um, I'm going to pull up some more information in a second as people are just coming in here. I might actually launch. My name's Eric Wittenberg, for those of you that we've never met. I see some folks coming in. I'm going to make sure the Q&A is open. So as we get going, if you have any questions, you can drop them in the Q&A. I'll keep an eye on that. Um, and I have a general guideline of things I'm going to show. We're going to get into the real deal. Uh, I'm going to show you everything I can. And there's not so many folks. There are a lot of camp folks that are still I think recovering, maybe at the beach at this point. Um, so we can be pretty informal. So you can drop the questions in Q&A. I'm also going to launch, as we wait a second for some folks coming in, going to launch a integrations getting to know you poll. There's like 3 or 4 questions in there. Just fill those out if you can for me as you're logging in. I see some familiar faces logging in that I might be ready. I might call you up on stage. Uh, you don't have to come up if you don't want to though. So see some people filling out. So there are some people who are workflow and registration app curious here, checking out different programs. Okay. Great, great, great. Gonna put some of the stuff over here. Thank you for those of you that are signing up and filling out those questions. That's very helpful for me. See, I see some day camps, resident, day and overnight. It's kind of skewed a little bit towards day camp, so I might tailor some language there. I see a couple brainers, couple minders. Um, okay, so I'm going to be sharing my screen in a couple different times and ways and places. Uh, this is definitely, we'll keep this as tight and informal as you can. Somebody says they didn't see the fourth question. So the 4 questions there in case for you to ponder this, so you can help guide. You can drop a question if you want. The question is, what registration tool are you pulling from? Presumably, you're running a camp at a school, country club, private camp, nonprofit thing like that. The second question is types of program, day, overnight. People closed it out too quick, and then current workflows. So this is something that uh, as in the advent of APIs and Zapiers and just in general the technological advancement in the last couple of years, people have figured out we need to pull data and let it move to let other tools kind of let things happen. And so the fourth question there is, what kind of workflows are you looking for? So being that it's September 10th, it's that time in the season where everyone's recovering. You probably, like every other camp, have drawn some sort of good, bad, and ugly recap of what happened this season and your year. This is our natural sort of point to refresh and say, what are we going to retire from? Because the pain is fresh. I think I might have developed this word called campnesia, which is the way that you seemingly magically forget about all of the hard things because you're excited that the hard stuff was over. And really great operators don't necessarily fall into campnesia. They record like, wow, we had a serious problem with staff onboarding. We need to revamp that cycle. And so these are the sorts of problems that when your mind is sort of open in this window, it's a great time to think about workflows. And so I have a bunch of uh, kind of, I'm not going to go through a full sort of slide deck. I'll have a general presentation of some of this stuff. and I'll show you that in a second. But in general, we need to have some of the same framework for, what a workflow is. Because if I just show you inside the camp stack right now, it's not going to work because you'll feel like you don't see it. So we got to take some frameworks and we'll think about your workflows. I'm going to keep things moving. I see the Q&A looks like it's uh, mostly moving along. We're good. If you have any questions, feel free to just drop them in Q&A. Thank you to those with the private chatting. That's cool. Thank you. So let me share my screen now. Uh, and cool. Okie dokie. So can everybody see the screen there? We got a couple of plants there. Just drop me a chat. Let me know if we're all good. Um, so the topic is Camp Brain workflows. For some of you that are not Camp Brain people yet, maybe you're just looking for, more information. Uh, got it. I see a couple more questions where this is good to think about. So here's the general overview that just a camp operator. I'm not going to do my whole life story, but I'm just a camp operator that loves starting things. And after our third child, my wife said, stop living in the woods, Peter Pan, and I created Camper Machine, which is really marketing automation, the strategy that I used and the tools that I used to grow the camp that I started with my wife, the Berkshire Soccer Academy. And so I really just kind of always look at things as an operator. And so the Camp Stack is one of the solutions that we've built, which is a platform to move data. So now that you have a casual understanding about Camper Machine and the Camp Stack, uh, Camp Brain is one of the three dominant players for camp registrations. They are, like now, all of the top threes owned by private equity firm. So the decisions they're making aren't run by the people that started them, but they're driven by, the ROI of development. And so CampBrain has not built an API, and I don't think that they will be building one anytime soon to do all the movement that is required. And so the Camp Stack has built a robot that can basically pull certain reports for you that you've made and start plumbing them into other tools. This is kind of the spoke and hub model um, that the world is kind of shifting to. Uh, and so basically, I think that you are all here because you want to understand what is possible in the future. So if that's not true, that's fine. You can see me after class or shoot me a question. And so the main sort of problem, just to highlight in case of those of you that are not uh, familiar with banging your head up against this issue of moving data, the problem is that you have a ton of data in your CampBrain uh, instance, or you will. And right now, there's this, the old school software development model is that there was like this image of a Swiss Army knife that had, a pocket knife over here, a saw over here. I'm like drawing a few, sorry, and a can opener over here. And 20 years ago, like your all-in-one printer, the software idea was, oh, we're going to build these, and there's like a pair of tweezers over here. This Swiss Army knife has everything all in one, all in Camp Brain. And the issue with that is that in the last 20 years, there are a lot of cool tools that, work better than the singular component inside any camp software. It's not a bash against Camp Brain. It's just that the Camp Brain system was not built, it was built for camp management, not necessarily just business intelligence and analytics, or just SMS texting, or just email marketing automation and tracking website visitors and or sending postcards. There's a million things that you now might want this spoken hub as the kind of mental model. You might want to send, phone numbers to a automated text workflow. Or you might want to send, you have somebody that is a business intelligence analyst at, Bain Consulting that's a Camp family, and they've offered to build this like really cool dashboard that would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars for, a Fortune 100 company to build. They're going to build it for you, but they need this data from CampBrain. And so there's a million use cases here. But in general, right now, if you wanted to take advantage of any of those, you would have to be manually porting that data out of the brain. And so you can't really, currently, you can't get it out of the brain systematically. And so the result that people end up doing is they're manually pulling data. And so, in case you've ever done manual data pulls, you know that the frequency, the direct time it takes, and the manual steps are what I call clickety clack work. With the clickety clack work, you have the lost time of being doing something else and the higher, better, higher, better use of your time. Also, there it is either soul sucking to move data if you are a people person, or if you're not a people person and you like the quiet listening to a podcast, sort of low level entry work of moving data. You might be a camp administrator and you just love living in the brain. You're in the Camp Administrator Hall of Fame. Um, you probably have lots of institutional knowledge locked up in your brain that could be used way more effectively. So, in general, that is one of the biggest problems um, with uh, manually moving data. One of the most common use cases, just to make it incredibly vivid, is that your um, every registration tool has what is in modern times we call a cart abandonment opportunity. The lifetime value of a camp family that registers for a, let's just say, a day camp charging, for simple math, $1,000 a week. American, Canadian, doesn't matter. If you have two kids that come to 3 weeks each, we're talking about $6,000 a summer. And if they come on average for 2 years, we're talking about a $12,000 family is the lifetime value of one family. And so one of the biggest problems, this drove me nuts as a camp owner operator, is that when someone fills out a registration app and it remains incomplete, there's almost no way in any of the apps to get not only automatically notified, you might get on a delayed notification, but there's no way to take action. And so an incomplete app is literally a dumpster fire of time and money, and it is automatable. If anyone has not been on the internet in the last 20 years, shopping in December for the holidays, if you even like think out loud to yourself and tell, all the smart home devices in your house that you really would love this new pair of boots for the holidays, you are definitely going to be retargeted with an ad, maybe an email, maybe a postcard, because the devices know and the platforms are selling that information to an advertiser. You can't, if you start to check out, you're going to buy a bath bomb, you're going to get retargeted. Those are like $20 holiday gag gifts, in my opinion. Camp is a life-changing home for people to belong to, but we do such a miserable job of selling it, we don't ever actually engage with these things. So an incomplete app workflow would look like every day pulling data from CampBrain to see who has an incomplete application and then acting on it. Acting on it, if you don't have any other tools, could just be, hey, director, an email to the director, or it drops in a sheet saying, hey, do this. These people filled out an incomplete app 24 hours ago. If you have an integration that connects to an automation, this is where you start unlocking, really sophisticated levels, meaning, modern-ish connections. So you could connect CampBrain to, so I'm going to draw it out. If there's an incomplete app in CampBrain, so they filled it out and they got to the paywall and they're like, oh, I need to talk to my spouse. I'm not sure if I can charge this on my credit card today. If that happens the next day, we can pull, the Camp Stack can pull a report of incomplete registrations and send that to a marketing automation tool. You can imagine HubSpot is one that probably comes to mind. Even this could even work with Mailchimp for a lower cost option. Camper Machine is one that I set this up for people in Camper Machine. But any automation tool, this will actually take action for you. So instead of just surfacing, the idea that, oh, look, we know that somebody, started to register, here we go. That's good, but this action is better. And so because there has been the absence, this hasn't really been an option. You've never really had the ability to pull data automatedly without your fingers being there. Many camp people have not even entertained the idea of doing the automation because they don't even want to be responsible for keeping two things up to date. So that is one of the most widely used playbooks for complete your purchase, cart abandonment, that camps can and should be using, and not just for new people. Many of the people that show up incomplete are returners, and they just got distracted, they got pulled away, and maybe they're going to come eventually, but maybe not. If anybody else has ever run a camp where they didn't get 95% retention, you know that a lot of people are well-meaning and think that they're going to come back. They say they're going to come back. On the survey, 100% of the people said, we'll definitely be back next year. But in March, a certain percentage of them, 5, 10, 20, 35, 50% of them just haven't done it yet. And so with every day that ticks by, there's a chance to, oh, there's a wedding in Jamaica. We're going to go here. Oh, grandma and grandpa are going to pay for us to go on a cruise. And things sort of encroach. So you don't necessarily lose returners to competition, but there are alternatives. There's an endless amount of alternatives that people can do with their time in the summer. Okay, so this is, so I'm just going to run through a quick list of apps. And actually, this is, if anybody's still in the Q&A, can you just mention there, does anybody use currently apps for photo sharing like Bunk One, uh, Mailchimp, if you have specifically, for those of you that had, for those of you that said you have other things, tools, if you have a Mailchimp that you currently communicate with, usually it's communication, reporting, things like that. If you have one of those, please just let me know. I'll give you a second to drop those in there. Okay. See, somebody's commenting. This is dead air. It's not dead air. Take a chance and tell me if you have anything. Even if you don't have anything, tell me we have nothing. And if you are here just auditing so that you can get the replay and you're not really supposed to be paying attention or listening, that's fine. Okay, so I see a couple people chatting privately, Mailchimp, a couple HubSpot. Okay, so I'm gonna show you now. So you're probably wondering, okay, what does this actually look like? I'm gonna show you a real version of a test account with CampBrain stuff. So let me share. Okay. So this is inside the CampStack platform. Many of you have been asking, is this a platform? Is this work that we have to get done for you? This is the CampStack is a integration platform as a service, or iPaaS is what it's called if you want to Google what it looks like. And similar to a Zapier or a Make, we connect the apps together. The difference is that all of those other tools are not specialized for youth services. So we are specializing in camps. And so what that looks like is I have created an organization here for CampBrain demo. Uh, the very first thing you do when you sign up, so nobody can really sign up yet until we go through an onboarding call together to make sure that we can execute what you want. But you add users. So I've added my admin users here. The very first thing I'll do is add credentials. And so you'll add your CampBrain user credentials here. Uh, I've just connected this to Google Sheets for now, but I could connect this to Mailchimp or other, and any of these existing options are available to you. Google Sheets is probably the most popular. Same thing with Camper Machine, HubSpot, and My Camp app is another one. We're working on getting Bunk One set up because a lot of Camp Brain people have been using Bunk One, and so we'll have that probably in a couple of weeks, maybe the latest November, I'd say. And so you would choose your credentials and put them in here. Some of these that you see grayed out, those are listed as coming soon. But we currently run workflows through these, but they're using custom workflows. So it takes engineer time to make it specific. But so basically, once you have those workflows, credentials rather, you can start building a workflow. And so I've built this workflow in here already that says, you can't really see, it's a little small. This is the CampBrain and Google Sheets are the two applications in here. I'm going to edit this just to show you what's in here. And so I've named the workflow. Anything that the Camp Stack builds, we always name and label it because we don't want to get confused. You can run these workflows either on a schedule, which is key to the automation, but sometimes at the end of the summer, or if you're updating things, you might want to run them manually. And this step, the first step, is almost always going to be pulling data from some source. So this is CampBrain. I said I'm going to get a report. This credential is the CampBrain credential access. So it's logging in as me into this test CampBrain account that CampBrain has given us to access things. I can pull this list of any of these stock reports or saved ad hoc reports that I've had made for us. I'm I've pulled this in many different ones. This is often, to be honest, the hardest part of what we set up in our stack map audit is getting the data to show what you want and understanding the difference between seasons, sessions, and enrollment options. A lot of times, the people that want to see these things built are not the camp operators that are living inside CampBrain. So once you get your report, we'll choose whether it's camper or staff. You can choose your season. So these are the past seasons in this demo account. You can choose the time period that the session was updated. And so in a daily report, we're usually looking back 1 day. This is an important thing to think about because in the instance of an incomplete application, if someone is online at midnight and they just fall asleep or they get distracted from registering, at 9 a.m. the next day, that would pull over. And so we're usually pulling things over at 9 a.m., 10 a.m., or some time during the day so that you know that you can trigger automation, pencil time in your schedule to look at it. But for this, I was just pulling everyone that is registered for this year. And then I'm sending them into a specific Google Sheet that I've created the credential for. And I'm saying I want to create a row. You have the option to either create or replace an entire sheet. So there's many different ways you can do this. You can create an entire sheet that refreshes every day. And I'm putting it into this Google Sheets credential called the sheet that I've called is CampBrain Demo. It's over here. So this is the sheet, and I have a bunch of tabs, and they're listed there. Within that, I'm going to select the tabs. So you can see these tabs are being read dynamically through this URL. So these tabs are the same as the ones listed inside the app. And then this is where the sort of magic comes in, is that you would be listing the steps and fields from your report and mapping them one to one. So in this instance, I was pulling in these headers and matching them one to one. And so you can map now one to one the fields from your report into a Google Sheet or any other tool. There are additional steps that you can take to modify them and transform them. Uh, well, that's kind of like a 301 level introduction. But in general, you can do that and you update the workflow, which I haven't actually updated anything, so I'm not going to do that. And then the workflow, because this is manual, I would click run now and it would run. If you want to see what happened, I can go into workflow history. I just tested this earlier this morning. And so if I click in that, I can see that I ran this once. It was successful. And you can see this sample. This is all fake data from CampBrain. You can see what was pulled through and it was successful. And so there are versions that you can pull camper labels. You can pull registration data. You can pull uh, first name, last name. It really is um, almost like a open-ended uh, essay prompt where it's probably too daunting unless you know a job to be done and some sort of automation or time leverage that you want to unlock. And um, that is the biggest thing that I think that's the biggest thing that if you're new to Camp Brain or you've been with Camp Brain for a long time and you're thinking, gosh, what can I do to give myself some more time this full camp cycle? That would be the thing to think about is what would unlock time for you if you could just bring over all of the enrolled people, if you could just send the people to my camp app, if you could just send the people to um, HubSpot, if you could just send your staff that are hired and maybe just send the new staff on a new staff journey. You could connect this to an SMS tool. You could connect this to Google Sheet and report how many people and which grades and genders and cabins are in. And it's just always running so you can give it to your program director and they know how many t-shirts to buy based off of the t-shirt size from the camp bridge. So there's a slew. It is overwhelming. And so that's why the biggest sort of first step is to say, what can I take off of my plate or an administrator's plate and do recurringly with this data that will free up more time so that I can spend a little bit more time nurturing staff, a little bit more time getting in front of families, a little bit more time doing the personal touch, sending the notes to people handwritten that came for a tour because they're getting the thanks for the tour automation or thanks for registering automation somewhere else. So that is your quick intro to CampBrain automated report is integrations. I'm calling them integrations, but we're really pulling reports as if you are logging in at a specific interval and pulling them and plumbing them to the right places. Um, if you love this and you're like, I am in, the first step would be to go to the camp stack and get a click contact and book time to have or actually, I'm gonna drop a link in the chat for you special people. Uh, that normal, that normal camp stack would be like a 15-minute phone call. I'm gonna share my schedule for a 1 hour Zoom link here. So if you loved uh, if you loved what was going on, you can just chat directly with me right there. You can email me or Henry to set up a time. And if you have any other questions, that is around anything that's setting up automation, integration, why to do it, um, feel free to reach out. You can shoot me an email, Eric at Camper Machine. It's probably the best way to get to me. And if you have any questions that you feel like the public would benefit from, you can drop them in the Q&A now. Um, if there's nothing, I see MK has, okay, he's got to go. All right, so again, it's Eric at campermachine.com. If you have any future questions for automation, you want to get set up on CampBrain, just reach out, let me know. Thanks for tuning in today, gang. See ya.